You're listening to the Lifestyle Business Show with Lucy Gordon, the podcast of building a more profitable business that gives you the lifestyle and freedom you desire. I share strategies to streamline your business, increase your income, and reclaim your time so that you can spend more time doing what you love. Welcome to this episode of the Lifestyle Business Show, where I have a wonderful, wonderful guest, Sarah Bryer. Hello, Sarah.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you doing?
All the better for being here, Lucy.
Ideal. Perfect. Well, for those of you who don't know who Sarah is, why don't you start by telling a bit about yourself and what your business does, who you help and how?
So, thank you for inviting me here today, Lucy. I'm Sarah, and I run a career coaching and job search strategy business. And the kind of people I help are mid to senior professional people. Most of the time, who are out of work, they're facing redundancy, they're applying for jobs and just not getting the response that they should be getting. A lot of those people are capable, they're experienced, they're really strong people, but the modern job market, AI, masses of applications and all of that has knocked their confidence. They're doing all the right things, they're applying, they're updating their CV, they're speaking to recruiters, but they're just not getting anywhere. And so what I do essentially is to help people understand how it actually works behind the scenes. So I help them look at positioning, CV, LinkedIn, all of the normal stuff, including their strategy. And we just get a little bit more deliberate about what they're doing and how they're showing up. So it's not just about getting a better CV, it's about helping people get their confidence back.
And you do it amazingly. And I know how many people you've helped and supported along the way. So well done you. So
Thanks.
tell me how did you get to doing this as your current role? Like for the listeners, they don't know how we met.
Oh, I mean, you were like right at the beginning of my journey, and I do just follow you around as like my muse. Like that's who I want to be when I grow up. So like everything that you've done, I think I'm doing about a year later. And I'm just like, oh, I just come to Lucy and I go, oh, like you did that thing. Tell me all the terrible things. But at the beginning, you'll remember way back, the thing that I wanted to build my business on was about confidence and like confidence coaching. It had a completely different name. When I think about it now, I think that I probably hid behind the name. Like now I go by Sarah Bryer because that's my name and that's the name of my business. But I think I kind of hid behind it actually.
Yeah.
I did loads of associate work and like doing all the things that I knew. So I was doing associate work with careers based things. So like, my background is all recruitment training, that kind of thing. And I was working for huge companies, helping people get jobs, not getting paid very well, working for other people.
Yeah.
What I've found was that it was actually really hard to sell confidence. I wasn't a great salesperson back then anyway, but also found it was because it was hard to put a tangible value on it. Like, if I'm more confident, so what? Like, why would I spend like money to be more confident? I'll just figure it out, And I just found it difficult to get people to spend money on that. So as I was doing more of this associate work and I was getting like I was getting good results and all that, I thought, hang on a minute, maybe I should just do this for myself. So I help people get jobs. And with some of the companies that I worked for, I didn't like how they did it. I didn't like this kind of sausage machine feeling that you've got these really vulnerable people and they're giving outdated advice and it just wasn't personal enough. So I leaned into it a little bit more. I kind of get to do the confidence bit, but it's like delivered within this like careers package. Um, and I think I did what a lot of newer service-based business owners do. I said yes to everything. Is that familiar, Lucy?
Absolutely. We've talked about this many times about the trap of saying yes to literally everything that comes through the door.
Yeah, because we're so grateful, aren't we? I think also sometimes it's a female thing too. Like, oh, we're
Yeah.
so grateful. Like, I hate that about myself, but it happened. And I wanted to help people, and I really genuinely thought being busy meant things were going really well. We've had that conversation loads of times, haven't
Yes.
we?
Yeah.
Like when our hair's like in the air. So I had loads of associate work going on. My own things started to get better. Like there were like loads of plates spinning, and like I worked with people to improve my marketing. We had conversations about things that work for you, And then I had this massive problem. I had this business where everything depended on me.
Yeah, and that is one of obviously the biggest traps, and we all fall into that, particularly if it is just you in the business. It's so easy to make everything about you.
And I think as you start with that like one-to-one thing, don't you? Because you've got loads of time. And you're
Yeah,
like, yeah, sure, I can do it all. And then when all of the people want everything, and it's not just like the time to meeting people, it's the work that you've got to do behind the scenes.
yeah.
They're
And you
not
were
just paying
giving,
an hour.
yeah, you were giving your time so kindly to a lot of people, and at times that work for them. So I know that you were doing calls on Saturdays and things like that because you were trying to help people, but overworking yourself in the process.
Yeah, and like not turning work away because I was fearful, like, oh, if I say no to this, well, like when will this income come back, And it was loads of emotional labour as well, like you're dealing with people who've lost their jobs, they go, it's not therapy, right? But you carry quite a lot. And then also I've got a 9-year old, and like, the whole reason I wanted to have my own business was so that I could pick my daughter up from school and do stuff at the weekend. And
Yeah.
oh my God, and then I'm working at 5 o'clock and all of that. And it wasn't like a really dramatic moment, but I think spending time with you, Lucy, as well, it's like the shift in your business. Like I said, I follow you around. And it's like, this is working commercially, but it's actually not working for me. And I'd created this business to have freedom, but I just built myself another job. I do care about my clients a lot. And I still do it now. I wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning thinking about my inbox and all of the jobs I have to do. So, this is like totally a work in progress, but just wasn't meant to be like this.
No, but this whole thing takes time, and this is what I try and talk about a lot, is that you're obviously not just going to start a business and then day one have the perfect amount of money coming in, but also not have to work at all. The whole thing takes a long time to set up the things, to build the the offers, to build the audience and the people who trust you. It takes time. And particularly that shift from going from overworking to then creating that freedom that you're desiring, it takes time. Because you have to put in loads of upfront work, don't you?
Yeah. And, you're at that point where you're sort of, you then believe in yourself, I think, that you then sort of go, oh, if I say no to this, there will be work next week, but I think like it takes a while to actually get to that point where you do really trust in yourself.
Yeah. And we've talked about this a lot over the years about things with like pricing as well, about how that takes a lot of confidence to get to the point where you're ready to charge a proper amount for what you're doing because you feel nervous that people are going to say no if you overcharge or if you put your prices up. And so you keep them low to try and keep business coming in, but then you're just working harder and harder and harder for not very much money.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that you've said to me that really stuck with me was that, like, I think you said, I think you were telling me off that day actually, and you were like, "Has anybody actually said no? You're too expensive?" And I was like, "No." And you were like, "You need to put your prices up," and I was like, "Okay."
I'm
And
pretty sure you had that conversation with me 5 years ago as well. So
yeah, maybe
we give it back and
we're
we give it
rubbish at
back and
listening to
forth.
ourselves. We're rubbish at listening to ourselves, but I think it's true, isn't it? Like sometimes you need somebody on the outside to reflect back at you what is actually going on because you're so in it and the emotional part of it and all the other stuff that you've got going on, like you've had house moves and all sorts of other like, world, your life stuff. You just get caught up in it.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So thinking back to where your business first started, and we've sort of covered that slightly, versus how it looks now in terms of that sort of typical week, I'd love to know how different it is and what how focused you are now compared to the stuff that you were doing at the beginning that was, very, very all-encompassing.
Oh my God. Yes. It's still a work in progress. I'm not perfect, but I'm definitely working on it. And like you said, I was working weekends, taking a couple of calls, like 9 o'clock on a Saturday morning, which sometimes meant I missed the time in the gym, or I was working after 3 when my daughter got home from school, leaving my kid dumped in front of the TV. It wasn't meant to be like that. So my week now is a little bit more structured. I've still got work to do because I find these like, school holidays, like, and all of that, that the week before just ends up being jam packed. And I've got some work to do around that, but I'm seeing it a bit more clearly. It's not just like a chaotic, diary anymore. But it's more structured. I still do a lot. But I've found lots of tools to help me with things like we talked about it before, like dictation, automations, and stuff. So I actually can push out an extraordinary amount of work. Like I think to myself, how much work I do is unbelievable. And this is when I spoke to you the other day, actually, Lucy. I'm trying to understand how much I need to do.
Yeah.
Rather than just keep going till there's no more time.
Yeah, and I think that is again one of the big things, that it's so easy to create work for yourself and think, I need to do this, I need to do that, and I'll just tweak this and tweak that, and working lots of hours because you're just always constantly tweaking things and stopping and starting things and coming up with new ideas that you want to implement. And actually, if you get focused and you just think, okay, what do I really want to achieve this week? Then it becomes so much easier. And I'm totally with you when it comes to like school holidays. Obviously, I don't have school holidays to contend with, but for example, next week we're both going to a Con together, and so there are 3 days basically completely away from your desk. So that work does still need to get done and needs to be made up somehow. So like my week this week is much busier than usual because of that.
And like I'd sent you a message the other day where I'd mapped out my year. So like if you ever hear Lucy, she looks up and she looks at her annual planner. And you see her looking up, looking at the wall planner. If you ever are lucky enough to be on a video call with her, and I thought to myself, I need enough stuff in my life that I want an annual planner.
It's very satisfying.
That's why I follow you around. And so I'd planned out like all of these, mapped my delivery year. So like when I'm doing my cohorts of, people, when I'm doing my workshops. And this is where I again messaged you the other day because like I like to have your a pat on the head for me, Liz. And I'd mapped out this delivery, and the expected return on that activity was more money than I was actually bothered about making. Right? I know that sounds ridiculous, doesn't it? Like, oh my God, don't you just want to earn more money? I'm I'm okay. Like, I've got to a point where I'm like, honestly, I don't need to be a millionaire. I've got a really lovely life, like I don't need a private jet, and
Yeah.
I don't need a Lamborghini. I've kind of got to this point where I know what I want out of my life, and like, it isn't that complicated. I want a couple of holidays a year and maybe shop at Marks and Spencer every now and again. Do you know what I mean? It's not that complicated. And I'd come to this realization that I actually didn't need to do as much, so maybe I could take some of those things out. And it's getting better. I'm now in a really lucky position where I get to turn work down. And even a year ago, that seems ridiculous. And I would have laughed at that, like, Sarah, you'll be turning work down in a year's time.
I love that, and I'm so pleased that you do.
I'm pleased for me too, and I'm proud. I'm proud of it because I have worked really hard. I've built my confidence, client base, like even like referrals, which it's like, oh my God, just to get referred is amazing. And now it happens quite regularly, but even a year ago felt really hard, you know. But once you kind of get over the peak of that hill, it's like you need a day with you. Just like, I'm at this hill, how do I now make sure it doesn't take over my life?
Yeah.
And so like I've spent like the last weekend, like I did work over the weekend. I did a couple of hours like organizing like content creation time. I'd never plan it. It would all be on the fly, and sometimes it means inconsistency and like double dipping into work. I'm trying to organise it so if I'm in LinkedIn, I'm scheduling the post, doing the newsletter, doing all that stuff at the same time, instead of like switching between activity.
Yeah.
Like, I'm a terrible task switcher, and I know it doesn't do me any favours.
No, and I can't remember what the stat is for that, but it's something like you become 23 or 43% less efficient if you're switching back and forth because you're like I was actually talking to someone yesterday about this, like even just the concept of opening and closing all those tabs takes time. So if you can do it all at once and schedule, as you say, if you're in LinkedIn and it's just like, right, I'm now in LinkedIn doing all the LinkedIn things, I only have to open it once, then I can close it and move on to the next task. Just saves so much time. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
And just like all of that stuff I'm trying to get better at. So even I've got like in my diary, I call them idiot instructions, right? Like when I'm doing something for the first time, I've literally got, right, here's your LinkedIn activity, here's the links of the pages you need to go to, here's exactly what you're going to do, because otherwise I will just wander off. You know what I'm like? I'll just go and find something to click on. I'll go look at my notifications or something. Like I need to focus.
And again, it feels slightly bizarre as as a single person in your business to write standard operating procedures, but that's what that is. And the amount of time it saves when yes, it takes a bit more time when you're writing them down, but then it's just, okay, follow each step of the process, done, and walk away. You're not having to think about it each time. You're just doing it and moving away. So I would highly recommend, and if you've downloaded my free guide, that is one of the recommendations is write SOPs for yourself, even if it's just you.
Yeah, because and then if you do need to give that to somebody else, it's all done, isn't it?
Exactly.
So, yeah,
Perfect for
exactly.
outsourcing. So on that SOPs sort of question, I want to know about the sort of systems and processes that you have introduced in your business that help you run things more efficiently, and also about how you've changed your offer over the time as well. Because obviously 5 years ago, your offer is completely different to what it was a year ago, which is still different from where it is today.
Yeah.
And doing that has allowed you to free up your time, stabilize your income in a really, really fantastic way. So I'd love to hear more about how you're doing that.
Yeah, so the biggest difference has been moving away from everything being bespoke and reactive.
Yeah.
A few things have really helped. So a really clear offer. So this time last year, a year ago, I decided to create a offer that was, it had specific deliverables. It wasn't just wafty, like, whatever somebody wants. We've all done that, right? So having a really clear offer, people know what they're buying, I know what I'm delivering. That has changed everything for me. And it's kind of got a spine to it so that now things are offshoots of this specific program.
Yeah.
And then since then, like last year, I was having people go through this program individually. They'd be in like group chats and stuff, but they could start it at any time because, I can't get a group of people together all at once. Since then, like 9 months later, I decided to see if I could get a group of people all together at once, and I did. So then it's moved from this kind of very um, hands-on program to a group program, a cohort. I can support more people without repeating the same thing individually every single time. And it
Yeah.
was only achieved by building a really clear offer, talking about it consistently and constantly, actually.
Yeah. And because you find that people ultimately do ask quite a lot of the same questions in those situations, don't they? And so actually, and also they might not be confident enough to ask the questions, and having other people around there in a group program means that they are all learning and advancing better, actually, because you're learning from each other.
Yeah, and in this, for some people, like on their own, they might take a week to get their first version of their CV back to me. In this group that I just started running this month, like 95% of them got it back in 3 days.
Because it's a competition.
Well, yeah, even though it's not a competition, but they felt like it was. And
They
where I
want to
said
impress you.
almost everyone's got them back, someone would message me and go, "It's nearly done. It's nearly done." And even though that wasn't the game, but it helped them.
Yeah.
And the other things are like templates, prompts, frameworks, especially for CVs, interviews, outreach, and follow up. I've got really good at using AI, and I
Yeah.
don't just mean like rewriting an email. I've learned about automations, systems, good prompting, how to do things better. I'm such a nosy Parker. I poke my nose into tools that people talk about, find out how I can use them, actually just to see if they'd be useful for my client base as well.
Yeah.
I've got weekly content rhythms, so there are 3 things that I talk about all the bloody time. I thought people would just get bored of it, but apparently that not everyone sees all of your email, all of your content all of
No,
the
they
time.
don't. They don't. And you're so good with LinkedIn. You're so consistent, and you have a very large following because you are so consistent with the routine that you follow.
Yeah. And I think it became like a non-negotiable. It was like, how am I going to know this works if I just if I just do this randomly? And it can always be better, of course. I'm not a an influencer, but it's not bad. And then the one that's still in progress is better diary boundaries, especially around like delivery days, thinking time. One of the things that I have done with the new kind of group program is I've got a document that's reflections. So after every session that I hold with this group, I'm just dumping notes in there. So just to make it better for next time. So I don't have to go do the thinking again, like, oh, what happened there? Like, how could that be better? Because I know that actually that session went on a bit longer, or whatever.
Yeah.
Um, but it's also that systems are not corporate or rigid. They are the things that allow me to be more human in the job that I'm doing, because I'm not running on fumes all the time.
No, and I think, and that's a good point actually, because I remember when I was employed, they have these processes that they follow, and when I tried to rock the boat and change one of them because I was like, this is super inefficient, they were like, oh God, no, no way, okay. And I've, eventually sort of taught them around. I was like, why don't I test it out for like 3 months or 6 months and then feedback? And now they've implemented that system because instead of something taking them 3 months, 3 days every quarter, it now takes them 3 hours. So it's like, why was that? Why you just get stuck in that cycle. So it's so good to let them be flexible so that you can adapt them if you want to improve them, but also if something else comes along that's outside the box, outside the usual box, that you can adapt them.
But I think that's where, like, when you've got a consistent process that you run it all the time, and then you start to see, like, Lucy is big with numbers, comes with a background, and like, that Lucy would always talks about like conversion rates and statistics and stuff. And so actually, and when I was listening to Lucy once, I was thinking, well, I get the process, but like I don't know where these numbers are. And I think I said to you once, I don't know how to find these numbers. I don't know where they are. And it was because it wasn't consistent. I wasn't, like this workshop that I run it every 3 weeks. And now I know what the difference is between the open rates of the emails from the first email, the second, the third, on each group of
Yeah.
people. But without that, there's no point comparing numbers because you can't compare it to anything.
No, and you do need to consistently take those numbers down and have however many weeks or whatever of the numbers to be able to start seeing the pattern and start being able to improve them. But yeah, it's a really useful thing, isn't it, to have those conversion rates? And so I use them on my website, being able to see how many people are clicking through to different pages, and then think, okay, well, this conversion rate isn't quite as high as it should be.
Yeah.
What's stalling people from clicking that button? And so without having to actually throw loads more marketing time at it or do other things, you can start to tweak what's already there to
Yeah,
make it better.
absolutely. And like, and even, I'd looked at, like the links people had clicked on my last email, and I reached out to, I don't know, half a dozen people, and I was like, hey, just to let you know, this thing is closing, and two people bought,
Yeah.
which increased my conversion rate. And it was, like with all of these things, if now that's taught me, okay, I must do that next time. I must go through, see who follows through to do that, but it's every day is a school day.
You can also automate that, but that's for another day.
Oh, hello.
Um,
Following Lucy every day.
so we touched on a little bit about your reflections thing. I really love that. So you're reflecting constantly on things. So let's go to the biggest mistakes that you've made and your biggest sort of learnings. What would you say your biggest mistake is? And what did it teach you?
It's been underestimating the cost of being too available.
Yeah.
So, like, even though I've spent money on courses and people and all of that, none of that has been wasted. Even if I didn't use it all, I've learned something out of it. Like, it's been worth it, even for like the people that I've met, or, whatever. But it's been underestimating the cost of being too available. I am naturally a generous person with my
You
time.
are.
I really care about the people I work with. in the early days for sure, and even at points now, I've given too much access, too much bespoke support, too much emotional energy without building the right boundaries. And it just taught me that being kind doesn't mean being constantly available, because you can just be tired. Like, I remember like opening my eyes one Saturday morning and feeling really resentful, that I was like, you know, like I'm doing this call for like 100 quid or whatever, and like, you know, we're in, you know, and also feeling annoyed with myself that, like, you know, somebody would like bite their arm off to like be paid £100 for their out for an hour for them to sit in their slippers at their computer in their house. Like, stop being such a bitch about it. But like, actually, I was just stretched too thin, and I
Yeah.
wasn't doing a good enough job for me, my family, probably even the clients, you know. So it's just taught me to respect my own capacity, because just because I can do something doesn't mean I should, and I shouldn't just build a business around doing it all the time.
No, and I, on a similar vein, in my other business, my real estate business, I was constantly available all of the time. And then I set an out of office, and I felt quite nervous about setting it because I set basically a permanent out of office that said,
I remember that day.
yeah, I will not respond to you today, basically. So, because all my clients would be otherwise turning up on that day and saying, I need this thing by 2 p.m. And so I would then have to put down other bits of work that I was doing because they'd emailed me and they needed it urgently. And then I was putting myself under more and more stress. As soon as I was nervous about putting it on, but as soon as I put it on, everyone just started emailing me with a bit more notice. And everything became that little bit more easy because then I could do my lovely time blocking that I love to do and just say, okay, I know that I need to do that by tomorrow or whatever day of the week. Here's 2 hours I'm going to set aside to do it. So it's totally okay to have boundaries on your time and to say no to your clients and not be constantly available.
And also, I think like with that, I mean, your out of office got even more strict, I remember.
Yeah.
But even with that, it's so true. It's that we think that people are taking the mick, and they're not. We allow them to,
Yeah.
you know, because we don't put, you know, because your clients didn't go, oh, how dare you do that? They just went, oh, okay, I need to give her more notice, you know.
Yeah. Because well, I like to say, probably a bit harsh, but it's not my problem that they left something to the last minute.
No,
It's
it's not.
it's their problem. So they need to think about it more in advance. And that's what you need to remember as the service provider.
I love that. It's harsh but true.
It is. And now let's flip the switch and let's go to your proudest moment in
Um,
running your business. What have or that your business has enabled you to do?
ooh, interesting. Proudest, the obvious one is when people get jobs, especially after a really long period of being stuck. Like when they get jobs, I feel so delighted. Even when people respond to them, you know, and they get that first interview, oh, it fills me with joy. Like when people announce their jobs on a group call, like I actually squeal. Like you can see, like it is my instant reaction. I'm so overjoyed.
Lovely.
Um, but beyond those numbers, they're probably like the proudest moments are when people say that you know, they've stopped blaming themselves, or you know, they've realised it wasn't because they weren't good enough. Um, I'm proud of building something that's mine. You know, like I'm not an academic. I don't have a university education. I have that little voice in the back of my head that tells me I'm not good enough. You know, talk to the 8-year-old, right? And I think I've kind of proved to myself that I have a gift, and I have something really special. Oh, you can't see me, I'm tearing up.
I'm welling up just listening to you. Oh my God.
But you know, I feel like I've made myself worthy,
Yeah.
and yeah, just you know, the helping people and doing it in the way that I want to do it, where I don't feel not educated enough, or I don't feel not good enough by doing something. Like it I feel really proud of the thing that I've built. I feel proud that I can teach my daughter stuff, and she looks at me and she's just like, oh, you're doing this and you're important to the people around you, you know, and that, you know, it's supporting my family. And to be honest, like when I first when I lost my job like 6 years ago and decided to be self-employed, my husband for the first time was the breadwinner. You know, I was always the breadwinner, and he had to pay for everything, and you know, the little scraps of money I was earning, you know, bought a bag of shopping and stuff like that. And when I said to him, right, that's it, we can go 50-50 again, like it made me feel so proud. And also when I could tell him that his job wasn't more important than mine, that like I wasn't just the parent and I wasn't just the, well, you're at home, actually made me feel really proud.
Yeah. I mean, oh, that was beautiful. You should be so proud. I know how many people you've helped in your time. Like I was one of the people that you coached with the confidence whenever we met 5 years ago. Um, and I know how much you've helped me, and I can see all the people that you've helped and see all of the things that you post on LinkedIn about all the people who've, as you say, like that, not just finding the jobs, but just being so pleased that they've got a response when they haven't had responses for months and months. And then, yeah, I know how proud your husband is of you running your business. So well done. Round of applause for Sarah.
Thanks, thanks. Made me a bit teary then. I didn't expect that. Feeling emotion today.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful. Um, right. Well, yeah, that was lovely. Thank you so much, Sarah. Let's talk about now when things don't go to plan, when things, you know, you've got a tough month or a period when things aren't quite working. How do you handle it? What would you recommend to people who are listening?
I'm a really annoyingly positive person.
You are, you definitely are.
I am. I'm not somebody who dwells. I probably blame myself. I probably say it's because I haven't done, you know, enough or, you know, whatever. And I think this is probably where like the data comes in, that if I know that I need to send 100 outreach messages to achieve my target, for example, and I haven't done that, then it's kind of going to figure that I'm not going to achieve my thing. So I think probably that I probably handle it just by doing more, right? And I like a target and I like a number and I like to achieve that target. I like shoving it on my whiteboard and ticking it off and all of that stuff. But I think for other people is that look at the facts, like what is actually happening, look at the data. You know, I do this with people looking for jobs that they go, oh my God, like I haven't, like nobody's called for an interview for 2 weeks. And you look at their spreadsheet and it's because, well, 2 weeks ago, they didn't apply for jobs for 2 weeks because they were preparing for an interview. Like it all makes sense. Like, you know, the numbers don't lie, Lucy.
No,
God,
and I think that's a
you.
I think that's a good wider business lesson, isn't it? Is that like you can't take things personally. If something hasn't worked, why hasn't it worked? And
And
the answer is probably not because they hate your personality. It's probably because you didn't send enough emails, you didn't do enough outreach, your sales page wasn't up to scratch. There was, you know, some other limiting factor that stopped people from doing it because you know you decided to launch on Christmas Day. I don't know what it is. Um, but it's all when you start to sort of step back and think about it from a more strategic level, it's yeah, there's a reason why things haven't gone to plan.
because you like you've posted twice on LinkedIn and expected because you're great at your job that everybody else knows it and they
Yeah,
really
and they're all
do.
just going to flock to you, even
Yeah.
though they've never heard of you.
Yeah, and you know, I post on LinkedIn every single day. Every day. I probably DM 100 people a week. I am in conversation with at least 20 or 30 people a day. Like it's intense. Right. I
Yeah.
like it. I enjoy that bit, right? That's not hard work for me. Like I like it. I've got tools to help me, but I enjoy it. But like, you know, what it looks like on the surface, you know, like, oh, you're doing well for yourself. Yeah, because I'm like messaging people on my way to the school run, you know, like it's not as simple as it looks. um but yeah, I think that is that, you know, it is the plan. You know, if you've got a good plan and you stick to your plan and you tweak the plan, the other thing I would say is get some good business buddies. Like
Mm.
you know, like Lucy and I have known each other for a long time. You know, she's my business bestie, and you know, she sends me
Can't see me doing this.
but you know, like having like someone who doesn't do the same thing as you, just a wise brain, someone who looks at the world differently to you, like I've got an extroverted personality, Lucy's got an introverted personality, but actually, like, we just see the world in a different way to each other. And I think that's quite helpful. Just having like different brains in your life who are not trying to sell you stuff all the time. When you go to these like women in business networks and all the rest of it, you kind of need to find like a true gang.
Yeah, and I think that's probably going to slightly answer the question that I was going to ask next, which is what would you say to someone who's, worked really hard, built something that's feel, successful on the outside, but it just doesn't feel quite right. What would any any tips? We've all been there.
Mm. Um, I think it's that you've got to listen to it because it's probably telling you something really important.
Yeah.
Like go and talk to people that you trust. Like why and that's not like your family. Like talk to business people who run their own businesses. Um, I think it's all the things that you say, really, Lucy. Like, what did you want this business to give you in the first place? More time, control, creativity, money, freedom. And that changes over time. Right, 5 years ago it was about money. Like now it's at a point where I'm like, well, I can make the money. It's not as critical. It's not
Yeah.
the difference between whether we go out to dinner this week or not. And then I'd look at honestly the way that you're working is actually giving you that. And sometimes the answer isn't burn it all down. It might be a better offer, better boundaries, more automation, or fewer types of work, or a different delivery model, or even just being a little bit braver about what you really want.
Yeah.
Because I think, we look around at these like, hey, have a 10K month and, be a millionaire and all that. And like, is that really what you want? If it is, more power to you. Good for you. Like, but is that the thing that's going to float your boat? Probably
No,
not.
and this is, we've both gone through pivots in our business, and it's, even though the thing you're doing is potentially working, as you say, if it's not ticking the ultimate boxes that you want to be ticked, then it's not working.
Yeah. And what you wanted last year isn't the same as what you want this year.
No,
Like look at us, like, a year's difference. Wild.
I know. How we change. How we change.
Yeah. But I think it's like, it happens faster on your own. Like in a big corporate business, it moves so slowly. But as a solo business owner, you can adapt and change as much as you like.
Yeah.
Sometimes for the good and sometimes for the bad. That you sometimes we don't allow things to kind of percolate, but you can be really adaptable. And if you decide, actually, I want a few more holidays this year, like I don't want to work Saturdays. I
You just
want
need
to,
to
yeah.
give yourself a bit of that space and perspective to realize those things. I think that's one thing. And that was the cycle that I was definitely stuck in. I'm sure that you were when you were doing the confidence coaching stuff, is that you're just doing it on repeat. You're not really thinking about it. You're just be like, here we go. This is the service I provide. These are the people I talk to. Keep going, keep going. And you just don't really think about it.
No. And I think you probably need as well as time goes on, you need different support. Like, I had a coach right at the beginning. I didn't need that then. Like, she was talking to me as if I was this sort of like, badass businesswoman that had loads of like, that had an audience to talk to, but it was just the wrong message. I didn't even have an audience. No one knew who I was. So I could just I was shouting into the void. And, but as time goes on, you need different people with different skills, to help you, and when you can afford to pay for them and all of that. So, that really helps too.
Love it. Well, that beautifully brings us to the end. Thank you so much, Sarah, for joining me today. It's been absolutely lovely catching up with you. Tell us, where can people find you, find out more about you, and connect with you? Obviously, we talked about LinkedIn, so you're going to be sharing LinkedIn.
All about LinkedIn. The only place you can find me is LinkedIn, because I also made the mistake of trying to be everywhere all the time. So I'm only in one place because I can't be bothered and I don't have the time to do anything else. So you can come to my website, sarahbryer.co.uk, because in the end I embraced my name.
Yeah, it's all about you. You are the business. You are the
Yeah,
one who's
so
providing everyone with the help.
exactly. So yeah, come find me on LinkedIn.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Sarah, and I will see you very soon. Thank you for listening to the Lifestyle Business Show with Lucy Gordon. If you're ready to spend less time in your business, head to lucygordon.com/time to download your free guide.